they dance and shine. Morning doves are singing high up in the pine. Outer banks are calling the beauty of Cape Fear. Mountain streams are running full with water cool and clear. Carolina, from the mountain down to the sea.
Good morning, summer learners. How are you guys doing today? Yay! I'm so glad to have you guys back at Alexander County Library and ready for a summer of lots of learning, lots of good reading. Our morning is going to start with music and the watermelon, and then we're going to transition over to a special friend that has been sculpted by artist Dick Sinclair. We're going to take a look at that. And then we have Forest Ranger Brian Heath coming with his wife Melody to talk about the special creature. And there might be some more surprises after that. We'll see. Well, we are very excited to have with us this morning the neighbors. They come over from Caldwell County. I've known them for many, many years through Merle Fest, and they played at the Apple Festival here in Taylorsville. And they consist today of Bob Henson on guitar, Patrick Crouch on mandolin, and Todd McLeod on the bass. So everybody give a big hand for the neighbors.
Ho! Homegrown tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes. Now what'll life be without homegrown tomatoes? There's only two things money can't buy. That's true love and homegrown tomatoes. That's true love and homegrown tomatoes. Are y'all having a good time? We've kind of stuck to a critter and food theme most of the day here. This is one about a mule Todd used to ride back and forth to town before he got his driver's license, and it kind of ran away with him a time or two. And anyway, here we go. This is called Whoa Mule. Simon Slick loved everything that I've ever seen, but how that mule could kick. Whoa, mule, whoa, now whoa, mule, I say, I ain't got time to kiss you now, my mule has run away. I took my wife to the kitchen and I set her down to supper. She got choked on a turkey leg and run her nose through the butter. Whoa, mule, whoa, mule, I say, I ain't got time to kiss you now, that mule has run away.
What do y'all think about that? Some awesome music. Let's give a big hand to the neighbors.
Thank you, guys. Thank y'all.
They're not totally done just yet. We're going to parade around by a special piece of artwork that's been done in honor of Tales and Tales, our summer learning program. Dick Sinclair. Dick, you want to stand? He's waving back there in the back. Is a fantastic artist down in Bethlehem. And I went to him and I said, hey, I think we want to do this special creature. Could you do a sculpture for us? And boy, did he. Now what's going to happen is we have rocky face rocks that have been primed on one side, and starting next Monday, you guys can contribute to this creature's tail. You can think of words, you can do art, you can do a sentence. Those of you who like to write stories, I know several of you do that. You can write out a story. We've got Sharpies, we've got paint. Parents are freaking out, but it'll be okay. We've got lots of stuff to get it off their hands. But we're going to have that in the library, so you can come and the tables will be set up to where we'll give you paint, we'll give you the brushes and everything so that you can decorate your own rock. And out from this creature over here, we're going to build a tale all through the library yard. And you can come anytime and see what other people have written, what other people have done artwork on their rocks, and they're going to stay out there all the way through August 31st. Actually, it's September 3rd, I think. Dick and I were figuring out that we're going to have our possum out so that you can come and... Y'all, if you knew how hard I have tried to not say what it is. But you know what? Dick, would you like to unveil our special friend over there? And we're going to see. And if you want Durr, I want to thank Durr Holcomb with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension. She's here filming. She's going to film everybody going by to see our friend.
There's 5 pounds of possum in my head last night. If I can run him over, everything's gonna be alright. We'll have some possum gravy. What a wonderful sight. There's 5 pounds of possum in my head last night.
I do want to thank my 4 volunteers today, Angelique Perico, Brogan and Zariah Chumley, and Anthony Crooks. I want to thank again Durr helping by videoing today. And let's definitely give the neighbors a big hand again for our fabulous music. And for the fabulous Dick Sinclair for his artwork over there. What did you guys think of that possum? Was that not neat? How many nails did you say you bent and put in there?
Well, I had 300 or better on one arm, so I don't know how many.
300 nails in one arm. You think about all the work he has put into that. That has been just amazing. Thank you again, Dick Sinclair. All right, so our next section, how many of you have a possum story? Well, we've got a possum story. Well, hang on to it, because what we're going to do, Brogan Chumley back there is going to grab a box. He's got a box of pencils. You guys get to keep that pencil. And he's going to hand out the pencils and index card, and you guys can write down a story or write a question that you might like to ask. We have with us Brian and Melody Heath from the Bethlehem community. And Melody is going to talk to you about the possum. Let's give a big hand to Melody Heath, and she's going to tell you all about it. And write down those questions if you have one.
Thank you. That was great music, and the sculpture is really impressive. That's beautiful. Thank you. You guys having fun today? Yeah. Thanks for coming out to kick off the summer reading program. That's really awesome, because watermelon's good and ice cream's good and beaches are good, but reading's the best thing to do in the summer, isn't it? Yeah. So I do not know everything about possums, but I know a little bit about possums. I'm a veterinarian, and so I treat all sorts of animals, but I sometimes treat possums. And my husband and I used to rescue possums and take care of them. Now, if I rescue a possum, I send it to a rehabilitator, because they know a little bit better about taking care of possums. So, how many of you guys have ever seen a live possum? A couple of you. Probably if you saw it, it was eating your cat food or dog food, huh? Yeah, I think I have a few possums I feed every night at my house. I kind of feed them intentionally, but not everybody likes to do that. So we're going to learn a little bit about possums. Most people think they're kind of overgrown rodents that are dirty and slow and not that smart. But that's not all true. I think they're really neat animals, and they're actually pretty smart, and they actually can run pretty fast, and they're agile, and they're actually really clean animals. So we'll learn a little bit about them. But possums are mammals, which means, do you guys know what mammals are? No? Some of you? Good. So that means they have a backbone, they're vertebrates, and they're warm-blooded, like we are. And they have fur or hair, and they have live babies, which means they don't lay eggs. and they feed their babies milk that they make. So that's a mammal. They're also called marsupials. Does anybody know what a marsupial is? That's a big word. So they're the only marsupial that we have in North America. And marsupial means that their babies are born when they're still kind of a fetus, which means that the babies are hairless and blind and deaf. And the babies are only about the size of a honeybee, so about this big when they're born. And then they climb into a pouch, which is a sac on their mama's belly, where they stay for usually about 3 months. So marsupials are animals that have babies when they're still completely formed and climb into a pouch. And so other marsupials that we don't have in America would be like a kangaroo or a wombat. I think the koala bear is a marsupial. Sugar gliders, I think, are marsupials. That's about all the ones I know. They're 2 months old, they start climbing out of the pouch and they climb onto their mama's back. And so if you're really lucky, you might one day see a possum crawling along with 6 or 8 babies on her back, and they hold on really tight. And when I used to raise baby possums, sometimes my husband, Brian, back there, would put one on his shoulder, on his head, and they hang on with their little claws, and sometimes with their teeth. They'll hang on with their teeth or their tail, and you can carry them around just like they carry around on their mama's back. They'll hang on to people like that too. So they are nocturnal. I bet you guys know what that means. That's what your parents don't want you to be. That means they mostly are active at nighttime, and they're slower in the daytime. And they're more active in the summertime when it's warm, and a little bit slower and less active in the wintertime too. But nocturnal means they stay up at nighttime. And possums, you got a good idea what they look like from Mr. St. Clair's statue over there. That's really cool. But they're usually about the size of a cat, and they're usually gray with a white face. Some of them can be black and some of them can be white, but they're usually gray and hairy with a white face. And they have 2 kind of round bald ears, and they have a long bald tail. And their tail is what we call prehensile. Do you guys know what that means? It kind of acts as a hand. It's a tail that can work, and so sometimes you'll see pictures of little possums hanging upside down by their tails in a tree so their tail can move. And sometimes they'll use their tails to carry things like leaves or sticks to make a little nest. But they have what we call a prehensile tail. And then they also have something that's very unusual in animals, and it's called an opposable digit, like an opposable thumb. And so therefore they're very agile, and they can climb in trees. The big ones can't really sleep upside down by their tail, but the little ones will hang by their tail. And they're really good climbers. And they're also really good swimmers, which is kind of strange for wild animals. But they prefer not to swim, but if they need to, they can swim to get away from usually a large animal. People think that possums are destructive, but they're not. They don't dig holes in your yard and mess up things like that. They find other people's nests to live in. So they might live in an old groundhog hole, or they might live in a hollowed out tree stump, or sometimes under your building if it's the barn or the shed or somewhere. But they don't dig out holes and make their own nest. They usually find somebody else's home to live in. What do you think possums would eat? Any ideas? Leaves. Leaves, yeah. What do you think? Yeah, vegetarian. So what do you think? Insects. Good. What do you think they eat? Berries. Berries, yeah. So you guys are all right. Possums are what we call opportunistic omnivores, and omnivore means they eat fruits and vegetables and meat. And so they do scavenge around, they're scavengers, and they will eat dead animals sometimes, which is good because they need calcium from bones, but they also eat a lot of fruit and berries and nuts, and they especially like insects. They're good for gardens because they eat slugs and snails. And one thing that I really like that they eat, because I'm a veterinarian, so I see sick cats and dogs that get sick from fleas and ticks. And possums love to eat fleas and ticks. And one possum can probably eat a couple thousand ticks in a year. And they're really good groomers. So if a bug gets on them, they're actually very clean. and they are good about eating fleas and ticks that get on their bodies. So that's a good thing that they eat. The other thing that's really neat about what possums eat, they sometimes eat little animals like mice, or we said bugs, but sometimes they'll eat mice or baby birds, but they also eat snakes. Who said snakes? Yeah, frogs and snakes. And unlike other animals that eat snakes, possums can eat poisonous snakes, or I should say venomous, not poisonous, but venomous, because possums are immune to most types of snake venom, which is really neat. So they're not afraid to eat little snakes, even poisonous snakes, which is really cool. Have you guys ever heard a possum make a sound? Do you know if they talk or make sounds?
I make sounds.
I don't know. What kind of sounds do you think they make?
They growl.
Yeah. So the possums, if they are threatened, they will growl. Most of the ones I've seen will hiss at you. But sometimes the mom and dads will make a clicking noise. Yes?
Do they hiss their back like a cat?
Yes, they hiss kind of like a cat, yes. And if the babies get separated from their mommy, the babies will make a kind of a little sneezing, sniffling noise to call out to their mom, and their mom will click back to them until they find their mom. So how many teeth do you think possums have?
100.
100. That's really close. So divide that by 2, and what's the answer?
250.
50. Who said 50? Good job. Yeah. They have 50 teeth, which is the most of any mammals in North America. So that's a lot of teeth. I don't even know how many people have. Maybe like only 28 or something. 32 if you count wisdom teeth maybe. So they have 50 teeth, but they're really quite docile. They don't usually attack people, and they don't usually attack even other animals. When they're threatened, they usually prefer to hiss and run away, or yes, somebody up here said play dead. So do you think they play dead on purpose or accidentally, or do you think they control that on purpose? What do you think? Yes, he said they play dead because they don't want to get eaten. Because most predators and things that eat possums around here might be your dog or your cat, but mostly wild animals like foxes or coyotes or bobcats will eat possums. And so possums don't mean to play dead, but if they're really, really frightened, their body automatically kind of shuts down. And they don't just fall over and be limp, they really, really act dead. So they fall over and they get what we call catatonic, which means really stiff, and their mouth comes open and they kind of like foam up at the mouth, and their body puts off a really, really bad smell. That smells really nasty. And so when they do that, the animals that are hunting them usually like something fresh to eat, and the possum appears to be dead for a really long smelly time, and so they usually go somewhere else to find their meal. So if your dogs or cats ever catch a possum, don't let your mom or dad, don't touch it, but if your mom and dad says, oh, it's dead, I'm going to throw it in the trash can, what should we do? Yeah, don't throw it in the trash can. It might just be playing dead, because they play dead really well. And so just put it somewhere safe that it can escape. And sometimes they play dead for a few minutes, but sometimes they play dead for 3 or 4 hours. And so just put it somewhere dark and quiet, and if you're lucky, maybe it will wake back up and be okay. He was saying you could pick it up with a shovel and put it in the woods. That would be a good idea. So the other thing is, we don't want to handle any wild animals, because all wild animals can be dangerous. But if we had to handle one, possums aren't as bad as, say, raccoons, or definitely not as bad as skunks or bats or something, because possums do not really carry rabies virus, which is something that can kill people. But possums have a very low body temperature compared to other mammals, and so the rabies virus does not live very well in their body, and they're kind of immune to rabies, which is really neat too. I think possums are actually pretty smart, because they've been around for they're very adaptable and they have good immune systems, but they've probably been around for around 20 million years, we think, which is a really long time. And when researchers do studies with them, they put them in some mazes, and they found out that the possums can remember which track their food is on better than dogs and cats and rats and pigs. And they can also remember if something tastes bad or it's poisonous, they can remember not to eat that food for over a year, which is better than dogs and cats can do usually. So yes, if you have some questions, I don't know they'll know the answer, but we'll see.
Okay.
About how much do baby opossums weigh
Uh-huh.
when they are born?
Yep. So baby possums probably only weigh like 5 or 6 grams. So think about a honeybee. They're that small, and all they can pretty much do is walk to the pouch and latch on to a nipple to suck, because they can't see and they can't hear and they can't stay warm. And mama possums can have anywhere between like 5 and 20 babies, but the pouch can only really hold about 13. That's all she can make milk for. But they're teeny tiny, yes.
5 grams would weigh about the.
That's what do you say?
Five paper clips.
5 paper, yep, the equal of 5 paper clips, yes.
Very long.
Yes.
Okay, what place has the biggest possum population?
I have no idea what place has the biggest possum population. I'm going to say the cat ranch at my house. We have a pretty good population going on, but they were originally Central America and Eastern United States. There are not many out west, but they go from Canada down to Central America. The ones in Canada have very short tails usually, because the frostbite in the wintertime eats their tails off. Okay.
And young man had put that question in, so you answered that
Yes,
one.
their tails are usually about 1/3 as long as their body, and their body's usually about 1.5 or 2 feet long, so about the size of a large cat.
Okay, now this question is, why do they have one thumb? Is that per hand?
So,
The free hand?
yes, so when I say thumb, it's actually called a hallux, Hallux, and they actually have one on each of their back legs. So they have 4 fingers like we have with claws, and then they have one of the thumbs that doesn't have a claw. So if you see their footprints in the woods or outside, it's really easy to tell. So it kind of looks like a baby foot, but they're easy to tell their tracks, which is kind of neat. So, but they're actually, when we say possums, the first letter of possum, if you want to be technical, is an O. Oh, you guys knew that, didn't you, back there? Good job. Yes, an O. But you can be shortened it to start with a P, but there are actually over 100 species of possums.
You may have said this, the lifespan.
So I didn't.
Oh, okay.
So unfortunately, possums, there are lots of them, and they can have 1 or 2 litters around here a year. Some in warm areas down south will have 3 litters a year of up to 13 possums. But unfortunately, in the wild, they usually probably only live 1 to 2 years. In captivity, they can make it, so in zoos and things, or with rehabilitators, they can live usually 4 or sometimes more years, but in the wild, usually 1 or 2 years is all they live.
Okay, I think you talked about how they kept the poisons out of their system.
Yeah.
Because of those.
So that they eat a toxin, they can even, I think scorpions they can eat, which we don't have those around here, but the snakes, they actually have a special protein in their blood. It's called a peptide that makes them immune. It neutralizes the venom, which means it makes it not poisonous to those guys. And researchers actually studied possum blood to see if we can make some anti-venom drugs to treat people who are bitten by venomous snakes. So they actually do studies with the peptide, the protein that comes from the possum.
I'm wondering if they're doing it with rabies as well, since they
They
don't
could
care.
be, yeah.
Okay. I think that's pretty much it. We had one story, found an opossum sharing cat food with my cat.
Mm-hmm.
They renamed them dinner buddies for a while. They were dinner buddies.
So the possums are docile, and I have some pictures of the possums eating with my cats, and my cats don't even move. They sit there and eat right beside them, which is not necessarily a good thing, but apparently if the cats are used to them, they don't bother the cats, and the cats don't bother them. Go ahead.
Do they like travel?
Traveling grapes. So possums are usually more or less solitary animals, and they like to stay in their one little region where they're kind of born, but they're usually solitary, and they travel as the food source dictates. So they will travel as far and move their home as often as they need to find appropriate food to stay healthy. But they're usually solitary. Every now and then you'll find a couple of them together, but usually they're solitary. The babies leave the mom when they're about 100 days old and go out on their own. So they do not stay with their mother. Who would actually like to see what a possum looks like? Okay, so I'm going to introduce a lady, and this lady knows way more than I do about possums because she is a possum and other animal wildlife rehabilitator, and she just happened to bring a possum with her. So this is Miss Kathy Herbert, and she knows a lot more than I do about possums. So here she is, and I'm so happy she was able to bring a possum. So now everybody can say they saw a live possum. It's all yours.
Hi everybody, this is Pitty Pat. She's the only survivor of 6 babies that were in a mother's pouch, and the mother was killed by a car. So she's the last one. She's not quite ready to go to the woods yet, but she will. If you want to know about wildlife rehabilitators, they are licensed persons who care for injured or orphaned baby animals. In North Carolina, you must be licensed to care for wild animals, and there are different licenses for different types of animals. If you want to care for animals that carry rabies, like skunks and foxes, then you must have a rabies vaccine and get a special license. If you want to care for raptors, then you need to have a raptor's license. So, I have been taking care of baby possums for 35 years.
Wow. Wow.
Really sweet, as you can.
Yeah.
And the reason she sits like this is because she thinks I'm her mother, because I'm the only person that she remembers. Ever find a baby animal in the woods, the most important thing is to keep it warm. It doesn't matter about eating right away, it just needs to be warm. And so you need to call your local wildlife rehabilitator. There's a website, North Carolina Wildlife, and they have different rehabilitators in every county. And so you can go online, find the phone number, and call the person and find out how to get that particular baby animal to the rehabilitator.
Thank you so much. Give her Are you guys glad you stayed for the final surprise? Oh, a baby possum. Oh. Although, is it a baby possum? What is it? It's a baby opossum. Kiss your brains, for those of you who remember from the Storytime days. How many of you feel like you might think a possum's a sweeter, kinder animal now that you've learned some things about them? Except the fact that they can kill poisonous snakes. Oh my! But you know what? They protect. And they are very fabulous animals. So I would like for you guys to learn some things about the animal. Remember, it's a summer learning program. So if you want to do some research and then use your rock to tell some facts, and you heard a lot of good facts today, but they've got to go on a rock, right? And we're going to have that all summer long, that you'll be able to come and paint your rock. You can even do a couple. I would love to see this entire yard covered from the tail of our opossum, which I would like for you guys to think of a name. I haven't figured out how we're going to do it. I think we might do like several names and then have a voting. People can vote what the name of our possum is going to be. All right? And I got to tell you what the rest of this is going to be. We have teen writers that are going to build a story with all of the rocks. We're going to build a story, and there's going to be a walk through Taylorsville during the holidays with your book. So it could be your artwork, it could be your words. So that's going to go through Taylorsville around, and then it's eventually going to end up at Rocky Face. So I'm hoping they'll call it the Possum Tail Trail. So this is a long project. The American Library Association gave a grant to our library, and that is why we're going to be doing all this all summer. So you guys on board? You guys going to help us? Yes! Build that story, and it'll be our very own story. It's going to come from us here in Alexander County, and I'm so proud of you guys. Thank you, and read on, read on. Thank you.
up on that flowing rock in the mountains up near Boone. Have you known the rugged place we call the Devil's Court? Have you met the peaceful people who live out in Eastern Port? Carolina, from the mountain down to the sea. Carolina, your beauty and your majesty have always beckoned me. Carolina, no matter what this old world holds up for my eyes to see. Carolina, I swear before the stars above, you're always home to me. Have you ridden west on 40, headed out toward Tennessee? Ever spent a day just fishing near a place called Colorway? Now that's simple down-home living done in the southern way. If you ever come here, oh, I'm sure that you will say, Carolina, from the mountain down to the sea. Carolina, your beauty and your majesty always beckon me. Carolina, no matter what this old world holds up for my eyes to see.